Hello, and welcome to the This Happened Today in History podcast. I am your host, Mr. Miller. This podcast will cover a number of topics that happened on this date in history. Please visit the podcast webpage at thishappenedtoday.buzzsprout.com. There you can download the notes page, which will help you organize the information as well as develop your own ideas on how these events change the world around us. If you're interested in hearing more, please consider subscribing so you will not miss out on what happens tomorrow in history. Today is August 1st. In 1981, MTV, or Music Television, goes on air for the very first time ever, with the words, spoken by one of MTV's creators, John Lack, "Ladies and gentlemen, rock and roll." The Buggles' Video Killed the Radio Star was the first music video to air on a new cable television station, which initially was available only to households in parts of New Jersey. MTV went on to revolutionize the music industry and became an influential source of pop culture and entertainment in the United States and other parts of the world, including Europe, Asia, and Latin America. In MTV's early days, its programming consisted of basic music videos that were introduced by VJs, or video jockeys, and provided for free by record companies. As the record industry recognized MTV's value as a promotional vehicle, money was invested in making creative, cutting-edge videos. Some directors, including Spike Jonze from Being John Malkovich and Three Kings, and Michael Gondry from Eternal Sunshine on the Spotless Mind, worked on music videos before segueing into feature films. In the 1980s, MTV was instrumental in promoting the careers of performers such as Madonna, Michael Jackson, Prince, and Duran Duran, whose videos played in heavy rotation. By the late 1980s, MTV started airing non-video programming geared toward teenagers and young adults. Its popular reality series, The Real World, launched in 1992 and was followed by such highly rated shows as The Osbournes, Newlyweds, Nick and Jessica, Laguna Beach, My Super Sweet 16, and The Hills. MTV also debuted animated series including Beavis and Butthead and Celebrity Deathmatch, as well as documentaries, news, game shows, and public service campaigns on topics ranging from voting rights to safe sex. MTV developed a reputation for pushing cultural boundaries and taste. The airing of Madonna's 1989 Like a Prayer video is just one famous example. In 1984, the channel launched the MTV Music Video Awards, which were followed in 1992 by the MTV Movie Awards. And next, driving an old car from the 1940s can be a punishing experience. Less refined and comfortable than modern-day vehicles, it can make you forget the phrase, "they don't make them like they used to." But the 1941 Willy's Jeep MB is not only a pleasure to drive, it is an honor. To mark the 70th anniversary of Jeep, Chrysler allowed AOL Autos to take the granddaddy of them all for a spin around its Auburn Hills, Michigan campus. It's not certified for on-road driving, and it's no wonder, no safety belts or doors for that matter. My first move was an attempt to move the back seat from the wheel. Seat back from the wheel. Silly me, this was built in 1941. Besides, the wheel well is jammed up right behind my seat. I squeezed in, making it over the awkward access cutout in the steel side. If I was in the motor pool back in 1941, I might have taken a welder's torch to the side and made hopping in and out a bit easier. Where's the key? No key. The starter is actually a button on the floor. It wouldn't do, after all, to have to get into a Jeep, just having you run 100 yards from pursuing enemy, jump in and find that you dropped the keys somewhere. There's a choke on the dash, which my first car, a 1964 Volkswagen Beetle, also had, so I am familiar. The 60 horsepower engine turned right over. It is of course a standard 3-speed with a long skinny shifter, which was the norm for the day. The back seat was really meant for one, and that's a good thing considering its small size. It has also served as a place to carry wounded with a stretcher that clamped onto the back of the Jeep. The ride is jouncy to say the least, especially on pavement. The MB's suspension was sprung for optimal performance on dirt roads and fields. On a smooth road, it can be jarring. When it comes across when you drive the 1941 Willy's Jeep is how much fun it would have been to own one back in the day. There's virtually nothing you could do to hurt the steel body, and there would be no end of modifications or bolted-on accessories one could hang on this bantamweight off-roader as long as you had a drill, a wrench, and a welder's kit. It's funny to think back to the 1940s and the fact that neither Ford nor General Motors or Chrysler even offered to design to the War Department when they asked for car companies to come to the rescue. It was a little company, Bantam Motor Company in Butler, Pennsylvania, whose design won out. and it was Willy's Overland that supplied the engine and further modifications before Willys and Ford took on the task of building more than 600,000 during the war. At the end of the 1970s, the Defense Department decided that it could no longer get along with the Jeep and truck brigade it was using for troop movement, gun placement, reconnaissance, and the like. It needed a much more modern, rugged, heavy-duty vehicle. Out of that came the high-mobility, multi-purpose wheeled vehicle, or Humvee, which was developed by AM General, a division of American Motors Corps, which also was the owner of Jeep at the time. I have driven the Humvee, both military version and the street version. I understand the need for the Humvee and that the inevitable replacement of the Jeep was necessary. But if I was going to choose between the two, to own one or the other as a collectible or for weekend fun, I go for the 41 Willys in a heartbeat, and every time. And then in 2007, shortly after 6 p.m., the Interstate 35 West bridge over the Mississippi River near downtown Minneapolis was loaded with rush hour traffic creeping through an ongoing construction project. Without warning, the bridge collapsed, taking with it 111 vehicles. 13 people died and 145 were injured. The National Transportation Safety Board ultimately determined that the probable cause of the collapse of the I-35 West Bridge was inadequate load capacity due to a design error of the gusset plates of the U-10 nodes, which failed under a combination of 1. Substantial increases in the weight of the bridge, which resulted from previous bridge modifications, and 2. The traffic and concentrated construction loads on the bridge of the day of collapse. A replacement bridge was designed and constructed on an accelerated schedule and opened on September 18th of 2008, not long after the first anniversary of the collapse. The collapse of the 35 West Bridge resulted in increased concerns about deficient bridges across the United States. In Minnesota, citizens and government officials alike sought to access to MNDOT, bridge inspection reports, Federal Highway Administration documents, and other records related to the history, maintenance, and safety of the 35 West Bridge and all the other bridges in the state. The guide pulls together many of these reports and links to the materials that record of State Minnesota's response to the tragic collapse and the effort to quickly replace that vital link over the Mississippi River. You have been listening to the This Happened Today in History podcast. I thank you for listening, and I hope that you have enjoyed learning about historical events from the past. Thank you to the following websites for their information regarding today's topics: ThePeopleHistory.com, MTV Debuts at History.com, Willys Jeep Introduced at Autoblog.com, and Minneapolis I-35 West Bridge Collapse at LRL.mn.gov. The music used as the background track for this podcast is Americana, created by Kevin MacLeod on Incompetech.com. If you enjoyed this information and would like to hear more, please consider subscribing, as this will keep the historical events in your feed in the morning for each day. I hope you have a great day.